Hi, Blake.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Hi, Kelly. Nice to see you.
Blake, good to see you.
Right. So at this point, I would switch myself off, and I'm gonna be on the backstage and leave you guys talking. I know you had a lot to discuss, and let's listen your insight. Thank you.
Okay. Blake, it is terrific to see you. They've given me a couple questions here, right along, I think, the lines of what we talked about in the panel, and my passion, and I know yours as well. So we will just jump right in. So Blake, can you talk a bit about how revenue management technology has evolved to meet the needs of changing markets in today's environment? Obviously, lots of disruption over the last 18 months. And so how have revenue management technology really kept up with all that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me start first with my role at IDeaS. So I've just really quickly been at IDeaS for 7 years. I'm a principal industry advisor at IDeaS. And as many of you may know, we provide revenue management technology to the market and work with various groups, consulting, travel organizations like Kelly's as well, to help elevate revenue management capabilities. And where my focus really is as a principal advisor is helping those innovative thinkers, those revenue strategy leaders, those vice presidents of revenue who are trying to change the culture of revenue management, the capabilities, or move to total profit optimization and things of that nature. Figure out what are the right things we need to do from those people and process standpoint. So the technology is put into place is not a hindrance. It's only driving, that strategy that you're looking to create. So when I think about what's changed,
I'm sorry, Blake. You're so famous. I just assumed everybody knew who you was. I should have let you. Thank you for that, though. Anyway, my apologies.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that people know who they're listening to. And
important. That is important. No, I appreciate you catching me on that one. So we're gonna. Okay, perfect. So as a reminder for the audience, since I interrupted you and didn't introduce you properly, the question was talking about sort of the evolution of technology, especially in light of the fast changing markets in today's environment.
Sure. Yeah, and I think a lot has changed over the last 18 months. And I think the first thing I want to call out, because I think it's a big statement to make, and a thing that people need to realize is that the data point priorities have changed. And what I mean by that is the data points that we used to focus on before, over the course of the last 18 months, a lot of them have become less and less relevant because the business has changed in the way we have to capture the optimal business. So I think a great example of that is ADR, especially historical ADR. So we're always going to look at that. It's always going to be a benchmark. But right now, year over year ADR comparisons, and for the last year and a half, have really been kind of an asterisk by them, right? They're null and void because we're not really going to see maybe like for like until 2022 when you look at a previous year. So what I see technology trying to do, what I see hotels and travel organizations looking to do is think about that data point. You're still capturing ADR, but maybe we need to think about it differently. Maybe we need to think about it into the future. Maybe we need to think about it as the price that we're putting out in the market and averaging that out across the competitors. So we create a pricing index rather than an ADR index. And that data is all sitting in a tool like an RMS. So Yuta mentioned bringing the data sources together, and an RMS is a good way to do that. And I do think there's a lot to be said about the single source of truth. And that's really been true with revenue management systems before the pandemic. But where I see the technology evolving is when we bring these data sources together, like Dave was just sharing with OTA Insight, we want to make sure we can figure out how to make meaningful decisions that impact your business off those, rather than just display them in an interface. Because if we, with all of our algorithms, all of our data, all of our pricing power, can't figure out what to do with your data, then how should we expect you to do that? And I think that's all part of the changing role of the revenue manager. They need to become more strategic and have to even look at charts and graphs less, even if they're being created for them. And hopefully that data is being pulled into the optimization process for them. So those are a couple ways the technology has changed, I think, over the last 18 months. And we've tried to be very transparent about that, where things need to be masked. And from a data standpoint, during the pandemic, we have a tool now in our RMS called Investigator, where we tell you why the price is what it is, so you don't have to go and understand that and explain that to a general manager. So a lot of things have evolved to make that user interface more friendly, so we can make revenue management more of a mainstream discipline. I'm going to steal that as a buzz phrase that someone mentioned in the panel. So revenue management should be as well known as marketing and sales at this point across other industries. So
it isn't. But we're the center of everything, Blake. I
thought so. But I have marketers that tell me otherwise.
Well, okay, I'm not going to go down that path. You made a really a good point, and I think that's going to lead into the second question here. When you were talking about, it's with all the complexity of data and all the data that revenue managers have to look at, you want to be able to easily surface those insights so they're quick to consume. You don't have too much time to look at that, or how can you very quickly just show revenue managers what has changed and what's sort of driving those decisions. So I think this is a good example of, we're in this situation today where, there's always been a lot of data, a lot to do, a lot to consume, but now we're a little resource strapped as well. And so this sort of challenge of less time, fewer resources, do more with less, I think has become very acute in the last 18 months. So, when we think about technology sort of supporting and facilitating this process, what best practices have you seen, and where is all this going to just really, position technology to make people more efficient with more to do and less people to do it these days?
Yeah, I think I've got a couple great examples for that question. I'm going to just play off a theme here that's come up a couple times on the session here today, is the ideas of competitor rates. So Max talked about a digital comp set, a classical comp set, love that. And hotels know they have comp set number 1, number 2, aspirational comp sets, all these rates that they're supposedly supposed to monitor, probably all these shop reports that they're receiving. And then, Dave got asked the question about how is this data getting integrated? And obviously the product Dave shared today looks fantastic. It's new, it's exciting. That data is not yet integrated into IDeaS system. But what it is that very rich database of rate shops across room types, different lengths of stays, different channels that OTA Insight has. And that data lake now becomes data that is ingested into your RMS, or your instance of your revenue management system. And I think where we think about doing more with less is we often equate to competitive rate shops for that being used to drive revenue strategy as, well, here's my 5 competitors, here's the average, I'm going to price somewhere around there, or I'm going to price above or below this particular property. And that's really because that's the extent that as a human individual, we can calculate what is going to be the relationship that's going to occur that drives the pricing strategy. But what's really happening when we take data from someone like OTA Insight, and we layer that in with your booking data, your booking pace data, and your forecasts, what we see is rates are changing, and how is your booking behavior changing? So do you typically pick up 5 rooms a night, and then when a competitor dropped a rate, you only picked up 2? And what if that starts happening regularly on all your Thursdays and Sundays? So those are the signals that now a system can see, because we have layered in 2 different data sets, one from your revenue management system and one from your rate shopping system, and brought that into the RMS. And then I think where else we're seeing people be able to do more with less, because we know revenue management teams have gotten smaller, or revenue managers have to do more now in their daily activity, is the system is also alerting people to when it's constrained by itself. So maybe a rule has been set up, or maybe you're constantly hitting your floor or your ceiling on all days into the future from a pricing standpoint. So there's various things that hotels set up in order to govern their business, and maybe they set that up in 2019, and maybe there's been turnover, and they just don't realize these things are actually keeping kind of a guardrail on their business. And now as recovery starts to ramp up, we want to make sure all those things get reevaluated. So we're teaching the system to look for those in itself and alert that back to the user as well.
Yeah, it's a really powerful tool. I mean, effectively, you're saving people from themselves in that situation. You may have set up something in some sort of configuration that, the system is now telling you, okay, this is what this is what we're seeing. This is what we're told to do. How do we balance that out? Seems like streamlines interaction for sure. You know, on that, and some of, you know, you're getting towards innovation here. So I think my final question, Blake, here is, you know, it's there's been a lot of because of all the disruption recently, there's been a lot of innovation, and I think you know, the momentum from the decade leading up to these last 18 months, I think is accelerated. So what, maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the more innovative tools and technology that you see taking shape today. And as we as an industry are at this point of recovery, you know, what should we be looking for or thinking about to help the industry recover as strongly and let's just say quickly as possible? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my first piece of advice will be to that 10 to 20% of the hotels that are fortunate enough to have an automated revenue management system, because no matter which tool you're using, you have some type of forecast that's being created for you. And that forecast is being created based off snapshots of your own data and potentially market data if you're pulling that in, sometimes multiple times each day. So what happens is if you see that forecasting adjusting in the positive or negative, that is a very early sign of some type of recovery or depression if we're, you know, losing business again. So I think that looking at that forecast and how that's changing over time, if you have access to that, that is so powerful, and not really the way people think about how they use a forecast. They're really concerned about how accurate it is at the end of the day. But really, as you start to watch, it's changing. That's the system telling you, hey, you picked up more rooms than I expected you to. So now I'm going to adjust this a little bit because we're going to continue to expect similar behavior. So those types of things, I think, provide really good early indicators of recovery and help you make decisions, perhaps, because if you're doing that at a segment level, you can decide who you need to continue to target. We have certain markets that bounce back really quickly or strongly. We have certain markets that actually did better than they did in previous years because they had strong drive markets. And then we have some that are still waiting for their recovery to occur, I think. And as you look across that, no matter what, you have to decide what is going to be the right mix of the business. And you've also created a new subset of business within your leisure domestic market that you want to continue to attract, or at least at the right price or value. So I think the last point I'll make there just feeds into the broader theme here. It is all about driving that commercial strategy, and that's going to come back to understanding profit levers and different costs that you can take advantage of trying to optimize. And a lot of that will be around acquisition costs, because that's where revenue managers have the most control in terms of expenses per reservation. So I see tools right now, they're trying to track that for hotels. At the very beginning, we want to start to get that data, know what our most valuable guests are. So where you have the opportunity to plug that into your revenue management system, take advantage of it, because I have news for you. The next step is, once we see enough people plugging that data in, we're going to figure out how to optimize your pricing and decisions based off that. In fact, that's already happening. It's just not happening for a lot of people because they don't have all the technology in place. So I think using the ways to track data right now, even if you have to do that in your revenue management system as opposed to a PMS, will kind of move that needle, and then get ready to have that commercial discussion and be a commercial leader at your properties.
Fantastic. I think there's, we touched on this in the panel too. The technology is evolving quickly. We're starting to find ways to more easily ingest data that's out in the marketplace. Lots of exciting things happening from that evolution perspective, and hotels just need to dive in and take advantage of it, I think. Yeah. And I'm sure you vehemently agree with me on that one, Blake. So. Yep,
absolutely. We're all here ready to help.
Awesome. Well, listen, we appreciate your the time, Blake. It was always good to spend some time with you, and thanks for your insightful answers to the questions.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Blake and Kelly. I think you and Scott are going to be the best couple of moderator in the next season. Definitely.
Enzo, I had big shoes to fill with Scott, and a really good example. So
you did brilliant, really. I mean, you have a future in the show business, guys. I think.
In case this whole revenue management thing doesn't work out, Enzo, is that what you're telling me?
We always have to get a plan B in the life. Anyway, thank you, Kelly. Really appreciate your contribute today. You did really a great job. Your value we know already. So thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, Blake. Thank you, guys. Bye bye.